Hello, welcome to another look back at some underwear design tech demos in DarkBASIC. In this demo we'll be looking at a kind of a combination, it's kind of a mock-up scene. We have a terrain which is rather ugly, some rather terrible looking tree models there as well, very attractive. Those people in the DB scene probably might know this as a object on Matrix demo, which was kind of a meme that was going around for a long time. But this demo actually doesn't use any Matrix commands at all. The idea was actually not to try and use those systems at all and try and create a simulation of how they work that would export X files, which is a type of 3D object. Really here it's just a height map that's just creating. So the way it works is that you have a large two-dimensional array of heights, and before the demo starts it runs through and actually creates, I think it's about, I don't know, I think it's something like 64 by 64 tile sized objects. What you're seeing on screen is actually, we've got some very rudimentary particles running there, and we've also got some visibility stuff in there as well. So the objects on the terrain are actually being recycled as you move around. They're not the same. That means they have a very low object count, which in DB is one of those things that's a bit of a problem to get around. The texturing on the ground is obviously just very low quality texture being repeated. So the concept here is really to see, can we recreate the matrix commands using just X file objects, and can we do it dynamically ourselves, which is in this case yes. That means having to compute the ground height and do collisions against that. The particles there are really just kind of see how practical this stuff actually is when you stick them all together. I think this demo was written somewhere around 2001, possibly 2002, I'm not quite sure now. The beauty of making your sort of simulation of how the internal matrix commands work in DarkBASIC is it can make terrains bigger, and that was a limitation that was built into the language. I guess you could stick multiple matrices or matrices beside each other, which is just these blocks of height maps that you can place next to each other. I can't recall why that wasn't a good idea now, though. I think it might have been something to do with them having a fair bit of overhead, because the matrix itself is a dynamic structure. You can modify the vertices and change the ground. So here we've walked off the map and we're still on top of the object itself. The height map being that internal 2D array of heights. Obviously it's a bit smaller than what the meshes that it creates. Earlier it was running with a skybox, and at some point I've changed that to a fogging effect. The trees aren't working, even though they actually work they work on the other system that I tested this first on. I don't have the source code. Well, I should still have the source code somewhere, but I just captured this off a video that I found from my old website. So we've got our particles, our trees. Now, the trees are being recycled based on what angle and what projection the camera is looking at. So it's kind of using some pretty crude approximations to try and speed that process up. So you have lots of trees and lots of objects laying across the terrain, but they're not going to be a massive obstacle in it. The idea was going to be actually having the trees and dynamically creating clumps of these trees together, so there would just be one mesh. Which at the moment they're just a couple of planes stuck together. I'm not quite sure why the transparency is not working, because it was working on the other system. The demo was captured on a Windows 10 system, and it does seem to play up on that system. Thanks for watching. I know that wasn't the greatest video in the world, but thanks for watching for that. If you do want the source code or whatever, jump over to Underware Design and come and find it. Thank you, and I'll see you some other time. Bye.